Well, I guess we all read in the TechCrunch and the news from the Silicon Valley when the startups are building unicorns like in 6 months, and those crazy stories and crazy speed. And definitely, if we'll compare Ukrainian startup ecosystem to that numbers and that news, we definitely will be looking not that good. But still, Ukraine is pretty big country, and we have a huge amount of people, percentage of people working in IT and technology field, and I guess tech is the main choice for the young and bright people here in Ukraine, because that's probably one of the few choices that these young people can have to earn good money here in Ukraine. So lots of people are studying technology, doing technology. We have a huge outsourcing market, and it's growing rapidly. Product technology is not that I guess if we'll compare to the Silicon Valley, it doesn't look that great, but still we have hundreds of people building startups, and we have several founders who already sold their companies, and they are looking for new opportunities to build new companies that with big ambitions and interesting projects in mind. And so I would say that we have lots of startups. I guess that's the bigger problem here in Ukraine, is that we don't have that much money to invest into that startups. And another problem is that maybe it's not the money, but most of the people who can provide the finance resources for the startups, in Ukraine, most of rich people here in Ukraine, they earn money not the wide way, let's say that. And good startups, they can't take money from that people. We have only a few VC funds who are able to invest in, and we can see that every year we can see a new players coming in to the VC field. But I guess we still don't have. If I would say what the bigger problem, the amount of startups, good startups, or the amount of good VCs and funds in those VCs, I would say that the bigger problem is that we don't have enough funds and VCs here on the market.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, Vlad, in the beginning of his presentation, mentioned that they're a real investor in Ukraine, and I always hear this from local investors, because in Ukraine we have some VC funds who are announcing that they're doing investments, but they're not pretty active, and it's just spending time for nothing if you talk with them and spend time, because sometimes they don't provide results and don't invest at all. So it's better to analyze the list of deals during the last year or two to understand who are the real active investors in Ukraine, and this can bring you more chances to raise money. Previously in our chat we had a question about traction which you need to raise money in Ukraine on the seed stage, especially because both of your funds has pretty early stage, and I would like to ask you, what traction does startup need to have to raise money from your fund? Does it need to have revenue, or is it possible to raise on more earlier stages of startup life?
I guess I would start. Yeah.
You can, yeah.
So yeah, in our case, it depends. Sometimes we can see the interesting projects. Like one of the latest I've been working on is the company that actually make interesting technology. It might be a competitor for Zoom, and they have they have customers and they have some traction. But knowing that this technology and this field is pretty hot right now, and they have this traction, so the valuation for that company doesn't seem for us maybe that's great, and that seems like not the best bet, might be not the best bet for our company. But sometimes there is a really early stage startup that has no traction, but we can see that this founder is pretty bright, and he definitely can build this product and generate sales, and we can definitely see this good vision. And we see it's not just about impact and vision, it's also about money, and that's one of the things that we can proudly say here in Ukraine, that we fund the profitable fund, not just that spends money. So we also look at the valuations and how much we can get for that money, and how big this vision is. So it really depends. Sometimes we fund companies that already have traction. Sometimes we fund companies that don't have traction, but they just have a pitch deck and some early prototype, and it's okay for us.
Great. Leonard, I see
so
you.
Maybe, yeah.
I see
so maybe I will tell you shortly. We have a pretty similar approach, probably in this case, but yeah, we mostly focus on the startups that already have some kind of revenues. It's not a not a harsh restriction. So the startups are better to have something around $10,000 in MRR. But we have a couple of deals that were on the pre-seed stage with no revenues, but with a good traction, and in terms of the audience or in terms of the beta testers. So what you basically need to have as a startup to raise money from us is not only like financial traction. It's not restricted to the financial traction, but it can be a traction in terms of the audience. So if you show us that users are willingly come to your app or to your service without any paid acquisition, that they recommend the service to their friends, that they have maintained a good retention rate for like weeks or months, depending on the product, and that there is a huge potential that based on your current metrics and your pricing model, your unit economics will be positive, then we can also invest in such a product. But I would say that maybe, well, we have only 3 companies in our portfolio in which we invested with a really small traction, like at a pre-seed stage. But the rest of the companies, I think 12 of them, were investments at a solid seed stage. So I think that it's better to have some kind of traction, not only monetary one, but it's better to have one to raise money from us.
Great. Yeah, it's always I believe that always it's better to raise money on more mature stages if you can, because you will have better valuation. You will give less equity to investor if you have a chance to grow, and it doesn't influence your growth, and you don't you can make it. So it's great. We have a few questions in chat, and one question from Leonard. Okay, probably I will ask the first question in chat. Marco asked about, as a money provider, do you have fixed model of negotiation, or each deal is different from each other, and how does the process work? I think it's more question about the legal part, do you use like SAFE, or what documents do you use? And I know it's a standard thing for you, but can you share this?
Okay, I'll start. So again, it's the main question here is probably not how our Ukrainian system works. I mean, like the financial system, and we have like our law system is not that great, and there actually I don't know any cases where when VCs funded like Ukrainian entities, because it's our laws are not that great. Like, okay, they are really bad, and we have no protection as an investor. So like when we say that we invest in Ukrainians, we actually invest in people who live here or basically have the passports. Yeah, but mostly they set up companies in United States, in Europe, or sometimes in Asia. And it depends, because some startups, they want to attack the Asian market. Some startups, they want to go to Silicon Valley. Some startups are making some B2B solutions for the niche markets in Europe. So it really depends where what is the vision for that startup and what market do they want to attack first. And mostly we invest the companies that they form in those countries. And if you're talking about safes or convertible notes, that's not a problem. The main question is how easy it is to make this transaction in the country that we are investing.
Thanks, Lena.
Well, at the very beginning, we made a lot of mistakes, I think, because we had a pretty conservative views regarding different financial instruments which investors usually use to make deals. We usually prefer, as we invest at solid seed stages and Series A, we usually prefer to do equity deals. But we have made a couple of good convertible loan agreements with startups in 2020, and a couple of weeks ago we said that we are ready to invest small amounts of money, around $100,000 in safes, in exceptional founders who got into Y Combinator from Ukraine or Belarus. So I would say that we are becoming more flexible in those terms. Well, okay, it's safe is a risky instrument. It looks risky, and it looks risky for us at the very beginning. But now we begin to see that we begin to understand that it's really more about trust. Probably it sounds cheesy, I know, but it's really more about trust in venture capital, and that if somebody wants to lie to you or steal the money, he or she will do this anyway, and regardless of how you did the deal with him. So basically, it's better. Sometimes it's better to be more flexible to catch better deals, and for this reason, we decided that we will probably invest sometimes in safes and in convertible loans. But for now on, I think for the upcoming year or two, it won't be the general trend for our fund, but I think that it will be among some options that we have.
Great, thanks. We have more questions. For example, people ask what you call seed stage in Ukraine in terms of revenue or customers. What traction is do they need to show to become a seed stage relevant to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, the easy answer is that the seed stage is the first investment that the company gets. I mean, like, not the funds and family funds, but the real external money from the investors. And I guess that's the easy answer. And the Series A, that's probably the next transaction that we made. Our Ukrainian market is definitely our valuations and the funds we need to invest in a bit less than maybe in other countries. It's definitely the case if we talk about the engineers, and our salaries levels are much lower. But if we talk about the B2C market and the money that we need to invest into the marketing And if the startup is targeting, let's say, United States, like, let's say, health niche, you'll have to pay the same amount of money that American startup is spending for that marketing. So yeah, I guess we definitely have good leverage from the engineering point here in Ukraine, and that's something we want to actively use as the VC fund, because we are trying to invest in the niches that we can build something meaningful and effective, efficient, with less money, because we are using our using Ukraine as a good leverage.
I think that I will add a little bit to Vlad's comments. So personally for us, seed stages, well, there are two kinds of seed stages. One seed stage is a solid seed when you have revenues ranging between $10,000 per month and up to maybe $100,000 per month. And it's a solid seed stage with higher valuations and with more certainty of the fact that there is really a product market fit and that this product is really needed on the market. But there is another kind of seed stage. For example, if we startup has something around $5,000 per month, but it has a huge base of free users, because sometimes it's common for both B2B SaaS and B2C subscription-based startups. And this can be, an early seed stage, because there is already some kind of a product market fit, but in the process, it can change. And the target audience, target base of clients can also change, and it will be a late seed later. So I would say that we have this kind of classification in our funds, and of course valuations depend on this classification. But I would say that for early seed stages, we usually have valuations up to $3 million, and at late seed stages we have valuations between $3 million and up to $10 million in Ukraine.
Yeah, I would like to add to be more specific on the numbers side. So our goal is to get up to 25% of the company during our investment period. That's the maximum we are looking at, because like if we take the bigger part of the company, that will be not that good for the next stage investors. So because the cap table will be ruined. So yeah, so it really depends on the case to case, and I guess you can, in Ukraine, you can get, I would say, this 20% of the company just investing $500,000. It's normal case here in Ukraine, but sometimes you can get like I don't know, 5% for the $500,000. It really depends.
Great, sounds good. I have one more question. How much the government interfere in private sector in Ukraine? The market goes, I'm not sure what does it mean, laissez-faire, or it's tightly regulated by government? Yeah. Can you tell something about it? I think the government is not a really active part of Ukrainian VC market, but probably you see some activities which influence your actions. Do you feel something? What?
Yeah. So the question is how government is interfering into our ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So So for the past, I guess, 4 years, that's one of the new political thing that is going here in Ukraine, because like startups are sexy and politicians, they want to use startups in their pitch. So It's actually moving a little bit because the government understands that startups and tech product companies is something that can help build a big sustainable economy here in Ukraine. And they like the latest government, they actually started providing the grants for the startups. I guess it's up to $50,000. I talked to some of the startups that were on the side of getting those grants. They said that it's the system is really sucks, but they actually get their first money and their first grants, and I guess it's a good signal. It's good for the market and for the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Clearnauta asked me in questions, clarified his question. He asked about the government interfere in different areas in Ukraine. So actually, do we have some regulations, or is it free to do anything? I can comment on it a little bit. We have some areas which are pretty regulated, like telecom or fintech area. Of course, we have some regulations because we're part of global systems, and where they also have some regulations. But in some areas, it's not really regulated, and you can do almost anything you want. If it's not, so I think we don't have so many regulations. And if you talk about the VC market, probably
Ukraine is a country of freedom.
Yeah, short answer to Ronaldo.
Yeah, I can probably add something here, and it will be maybe, you know, despite the fact that I'm not really agreeing always with this initiative, which is called Ukrainian Startup Fund, I think that in general, if we think about that, this is a good thing to have when government is providing some kind of budget and competition for startups for some pre-seed stage and early seed stage grants, because for some startups it's very beneficial at early stage to have some additional funding, like $50,000 or $25,000 to cover some initial expenses, and maybe to make that one hire, one software development who will actually build the whole software eventually. And yeah, sometimes I think because this is a governmental initiative, it doesn't work really efficiently, and sometimes you can see that not the best startups are coming to such competitions. But I personally know at least 3 or 4 startups that got grants from this Ukrainian Startup Fund, and that benefited a lot from these grants, because those were very young, enthusiastic guys just out of the university who really wanted to make something great, and they actually managed to build this product because they managed to hire that one person who helped them to create, you know, content and the mobile app. So basically, sometimes it plays well, sometimes it plays bad, but I think that in general, this is a good initiative. So this is another way how our government kind of not interferes, but gets involved into tech industry.
Yeah, great. Rodrigo, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, no, I do have a question that I think can be quite practical and interesting for everyone, but I think we can answer the one's question first, and then I'll pop up with mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a question from Juan about what are the most attractive areas to you. Can you mention something? What you love the most?
Yeah, like from my personal point of view, because it's my subjective thoughts. So I think that AI and robotics are the fields that are really interesting, and we see that there are lots of engineers digging deep into the AI niche, and there are a couple of companies that are doing great stuff. One of the first companies was I guess the Luxury. They actually made you probably know that masks in Snapchat and Instagram. So basically that's a Ukrainian startup that started this huge trend, and they were using machine learning algorithms to catch the face from the front camera of smartphone. And I can see that there are more and more companies that are trying to play with this. Recently, there was another startup. We didn't invest in it, but it's an interesting B2C case, the Reface company. They also do actually, it's a company that makes deep fakes and pretty similar using machine learning algorithms, and they were funded by Andreessen Horowitz. So yeah, I can definitely see that AI was one of the fields that we can see interesting startups coming in the future. Robotics, it's another field. Hardware niche is pretty big here in Ukraine because we have like big heritage from the hardware tech engineers here in Ukraine, and there are more and more companies building interesting solutions in this field as well.
Right, great. What you can mention, Lena, about areas?
Yeah, personally for me and for our fund, I'm really excited about online education or tech, because this is a really huge industry, and there are plenty of niches that need to be covered by educational technologies and that can be covered. And also because I'm really into self-learning, and I usually felt that our schools and colleges and current form of education is getting older and older and cannot catch up with the current trends and with the current speed of how everything evolves. And that's for this reason we need this kind of structural change towards more online approach to education. And for this reason, I really like online education, and actually half of our portfolio is in online education right now. So basically, this is directly reflected in our investment strategy. And the second industry is that I really like mobile apps and gaming. And gaming is what makes me excited. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to understand how it works and how to evaluate the companies in the gaming industry, because I see that not directly gaming, but I would say even social gaming, because like companies like Roblox or any other companies which help people to share their games to play with some other people. So I think that it's also a very cool, exciting industry, which makes more good than harm. And I think that the world is moving towards this mix of social media and gaming, and that we will see a lot of changes stemming from this kind of trend. So these are maybe two fields that I really like.
I always say startups that it's great to analyze what the most active people in the fund are really deep dive and what they love. Because, for example, Lena is super active in the fund, and if she loves education, it's great, and this means that you have great chances to be invested by the fund which Lena represents. So it's great to learn. Yeah, we have one question more from Luan, and probably we can ask Rodrigo as well. How about real tech marketplaces, B2B marketplaces? Is it interesting to Ukrainian market, and is it a good deal to investors?
Well, I can say about Preply. That's one of the investments. That's I guess that was one of the investments that's out of our strategy. We were not a lead investor, but we were like happy investor. We made exits during the one of the rounds. So Preply is the global marketplace for language learning, and they are like growing really fast. So actually for the last year, they, like, let's say 365 days, they raised 2 rounds, and that's one of the really fastest growing company here in Ukraine. The latest round was $35 million, and that's a marketplace where the like every teacher can log into the system, and they have like hundreds of thousands, probably millions of students that are actually learning languages through using their marketplace solution. And they also go into the B2B markets, and they have more and more companies that are using their service to educate their workers to learn languages. And we can definitely see that it's one of the hottest startups here in Ukraine, and that might be another unicorn in the future.
I would say that, well, I wouldn't say that we are pretty active in marketplaces here. So it's an interesting field for sure, because it's pretty complicated to build, and it requires huge expertise in this, community and network building, and you need to understand simultaneously how to build both sides of the marketplace, and to do it effectively, and not to miss out at each side, and which is pretty hard for many people. And those who succeed, they usually have this competitive barrier for entrance to their market, and it's really hard to make a solid competitor in this sphere. But I would say that the field is of course interesting, but it depends. It really depends on what you are actually doing. For example, I had a company which managed to get into very cool accelerators. I had such a company in our pipeline, and it came from Belarus, and they were selling their vision and idea, like they were promoting the sharing economy, saying that they were trying to establish this sharing between people for digital, some kind of currency and stuff. And eventually we realized, when we started talking to them, that it's a simple classified in which you just try to sell your personal belongings which you don't need, like clothes or some stuff that you don't really use anymore. And this is not a very innovative model. So it really depends on what you are doing and how you are selling this idea if necessary on the market. So it's just like with any other product, but marketplaces, they require this certain skill of building both sides of the market, and people usually lack it.
Yeah. We have a question from Fabiana. I don't think it's not really focused with venture capital market, I believe, but probably I will answer about not being a member of the European Union makes it more difficult to finance the Ukrainian IT industry. Vlad has already mentioned that most of Ukrainian startups doesn't have Ukrainian registration. They can have an office here and some Ukrainian entity, but most of the time this entity is owned by the company from Delaware or from Cyprus or other destinations, because they have much better legal systems. And that's why, like, technically, Genesis Investments can invest into a Delaware company, not into Ukrainian entity. So in this way, it's a little bit easier to invest into and finance the US company. So we have this problem, and I hope some days it will change. But we need to change the legal system to make it more relevant and close to UK laws or United States. Rodrigo, you have a question. You can ask at the end of the discussion. Yeah, because we will not have time to finish.
Yeah, no, mine is, I just want to make a quite practical question, because I think that is a challenge that we see a lot with entrepreneurs trying to raise money. But from your perspective, guys, I'd like to hear what are the things that you receive and that make you stop looking at the application right there. That could be on a pitch deck or something they say, but really the no-goes, so people can avoid doing that. And of course, also get some good tips in case they want to reach out to you or to another investor. What are the things that you like to see on the other hand? So these two sides of the coin, let's say.
Okay, I'll start. That's a nice question. I guess I would answer that sometimes entrepreneurs, they are choosing the VC way. I mean, like the venture capital investments, like strategy, just because it's cool. And so our role, like when we look into the pitch decks, that's probably one of the first thing we, like I'm personally trying to catch, to understand whether this startup is really a good fit for the venture capital money, because sometimes some startups they might not need venture capital because they can get like debt money and they can build a big business that's like big cash cows. But for the venture capitalists, we are looking for exits, and we are looking for the companies that can grow rapidly, and that's a bit different mindset. So that's probably the first thing that I'm trying to catch. From the other part of the question, you said that you asked that what are the goals? No goals, but the goals. I would say that's the passion of entrepreneur, and because sometimes again founders might raise money because their business is not growing pretty good. They don't feel good about it, and they think, okay, maybe I need to talk with those VC guys, maybe they will fund me and everything will go right back. But that's not the case. You need to be really passionate about what you are building, and you have to be like really energetic, and that's something that I guess every VC really loves to see during the pitching process.
From my perspective, I will probably try to like tell a bit more about the pitches, like from the practical point of view, like the emails and pitches that I usually receive, and which wordings or which things are making me cringe all the time. And to begin with is when the founder is not really like polite, I would say, for example, you are asking him for some documents and he sends them in 3 weeks after your request. And then in a couple of hours, he says, so did you manage to look at them? So what is your feedback? And I'm like, well, what? I mean, this is kind of crazy. I don't like it. And the second thing is that they are not providing all the relevant information from during their first pitch. So they're writing this very abstract email. We are doing some cool things. We will conquer the world and something like that. But what I'm really interested in is one sentence about your product, your current traction, your revenues, growth, the size of the audience. We are raising this amount of money. That's it. And your stage of your current fundraising process. Do you have any commitments? Don't you have any commitments? Which valuation do you expect? And such stuff. And I usually advise startups to do such thing and send all this information during your first pitch, and don't hesitate to do so, because it's really relevant. It's really relevant information. And as an investor, as a representative of an investment fund, it gives me all the necessary data which I need to make a decision whether I want to proceed with them. And the third point is, I would say that I agree with Vlad regarding the relevance of the startup. So if we say on our webpage that we invest in B2B SaaS or mobile apps or artificial intelligence and machine learning or gaming or whatever, and you're making robots, so it's not really our field. So I think that that's just a waste of time for both the startup and us to get such pitches. So I would say that just study some information about the fund and make sure that you are sending the information to a relevant VC fund.
Great. I think we already need to finish, Rodrigo. Yeah, we are run out of time, and I have a few questions in my personal chats about how some people can invest with your company. So is it possible to do in some way? Like, do you invest with angels?
Well, I guess not. Sorry, Lena. Yeah. Yes, there are a couple of companies that are like growing up pretty fast, and we have funds to fund the seed stage, and usually partially the Series A. Yeah, but if you are looking for interesting companies to fund, yeah, I guess we can make some interest. But yeah, it's more about angel investments.
It's about angel investments, yeah.
I guess I see. Well, I guess you can look to the accelerators here. We have EO business incubators. I would say that's the best incubator accelerator here in Ukraine, and into the startups that Ukraine is funding. Yeah, they are not bad early stage companies, and yeah, I would go there.
Right.
We have a couple of companies in our portfolio which are in which we invested at pre-seed stages. So basically, they will be raising a seed stage or Series A round in the upcoming year or two. So I think that this is a good chance to kind of connect. And they don't have any like specific geographical requirements regarding from which countries their investors should come. So if you are really valued investor, so you can always try to join. And I think that the best way to contact me is LinkedIn. So and then we can switch to email, but you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can actually send a link. So just
great. I already have shared the link to the websites of your funds. You can also share your LinkedIn to easier just to find you and connect. I think we will finish this panel discussion. Thanks a lot for your time and for sharing your thoughts about the market and about the direction. I hope it will give more information for startups who are going to raise money. And I believe that Brazilian companies have the same opportunity to raise from you if they're doing something great and focused on global markets, not just on the local one. And especially if they will have some Ukrainian co-founders, so they will launch some R&D office here, I think they will fit your target, fit your criteria even much more easier. Thanks again for your time, Vlad, Lena, Rodrigo. I think we can continue and
do the final words. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Vlad, Lena, thank you very, very much for coming. Very nice to get the insights from you, and very valuable for sure. So now companies definitely have a better insight if they want to go to Ukraine. They also know how the market works better, and hopefully how to raise money if that's the case.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, and yeah, if you'll be flying by Ukraine, please visit us here in Kyiv, I guess after the COVID stuff, and we'll be happy to show you Ukraine at its best, not just from the venture capital but from other sides. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks for the invite. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Lena. Bye. Guys, should I do a last warning in Portuguese? So Kirill, if you want to go, that's also fine. But just to mention about the things tomorrow and do a quick recap of the session. I'll do it in Portuguese very quickly. Então, pessoal, calma que tem que virar a chavinha que eu me confundo quando troco do inglês para o português muito rápido. Mas achei muito legal a sessão de hoje, bem prática e, mais importante, bem sincera também. Né? Eu acho que a gente ouviu bastante coisa em relação à experiência deles com investimento, né? A experiência do que é o mercado, né, de VC na Ucrânia, que desde a primeira sessão, na verdade, a gente já tinha ouvido que era um dos desafios que as empresas enfrentavam. Né? Mas uma das coisas que eu queria colocar em destaque, que foi mencionada, né, algumas vezes aí, é que apesar de, né, ser uma dificuldade, ainda acaba sendo às vezes menos competitivo do que em alguns outros lugares que você tem, né, fora da Europa, ou dentro da Europa, desculpa. E uma outra coisa que eu achei bem bacana também é eles mencionarem que a maioria dos VCs, eles já investem, né, pensando numa empresa que tenha a mentalidade global, porque a ideia não é você ficar só na Ucrânia, né? Eles mesmos comentaram, cara, se você for investir, a gente tem que pensar em abrir empresa em outro lugar, em fazer uma expansão para tal mercado, para onde você vai focar, como é que as coisas vão acontecer, né? E é legal a gente começar a trazer um pouco dessa mentalidade, porque quando a gente fala de Europa, né, num geral, e sendo União Europeia ou não sendo União Europeia, isso é muito comum que aconteça, né? Você não cria uma empresa aqui para um mercado nacional, a não ser que seja na Alemanha, na Inglaterra, talvez na França, Espanha, que são mercados muito grandes, né? Você, se está em outros países, você tem que colocar no teu roadmap, né, escalar para outros lugares. E eu acho que isso é um passo legal para você colocar, né, dentro do teu planejamento também. Então, se vocês pensam no mercado europeu, né, não é um lugar só que você vai entrar e vai dominar tudo. Não é só uma estratégia que vai funcionar, né? Então, às vezes é interessante você começar a levar isso em consideração, né, colocar isso na tua análise, né? Às vezes a Ucrânia pode ser esse stepping stone para você ir para cá, né? Ou às vezes pode ser um segundo mercado que talvez tenha mais interesse, né, de acordo com o teu mercado, né? Às vezes levantar dinheiro não é tão interessante, mas você tem ali um nicho que pode ser muito bem trabalhado, né? Enfim, é legal trazer um pouco dessa perspectiva, né, e levar isso em consideração na hora que vocês estiverem, né, montando a estratégia de vocês. Gosto de reforçar, né, o pessoal deixaria as portas abertas. Eu coloquei o LinkedIn de todo mundo ali, das 3 pessoas, né, da Olga que estava ali antes, da Elena e do Vlad, os 3 estão no chat, mas eu estou mandando um e-mail todo dia para vocês aí com os contatos depois, alguns highlights, né, para a gente acompanhar da sessão. Então, eu vou mandar lá também para vocês não terem desculpa de não entrar em contato com eles. Então, gente, amanhã é nosso último dia. Caraca, passou muito rápido. A gente vai falar amanhã sobre as questões mais burocráticas, né, menos sexys, mais importantes. Vamos falar de visto, vamos falar, né, de abertura de empresa, vamos falar de contratação, vamos falar de imposto. Então, assuntos mais chatos, com certeza, mas extremamente importantes. Então, venham, bombardeiem o cara de pergunta, porque eu acho que essa é a hora que você tem ali uma consultoria, né, estrutural, organizacional de graça, que às vezes pode sair caro. E no final a gente vai fazer um recap com todo mundo, né? Então a ideia é que a gente tenha um momento aí junto com o Kirill, né, eu e o Kirill, mostrar aí um pouco os pontos principais que a gente viu e abordou durante as sessões da semana, né? E quem sabe dar algumas ideias aí para próximos passos, tá? Então vejo vocês amanhã de novo. Se quiserem, enfim, perguntar alguma coisa ou comentar qualquer coisa, eu vou ficar aqui mais um pouquinho ainda falando com o Kirill, mas fiquem à vontade aí, senão eu vejo vocês amanhã. Kirill, sorry, I was just recapping everything and saying that tomorrow we have also a time in the end that we're doing a recap from our perspective about the sessions, and that's how we finish it. Right?
Thanks, guys, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, perfect. I got a message here from Felipe. Sorry, guys, if you want to go, it's fine. I'm just going to reply to Felipe here. See you tomorrow. Ô, Felipe, eu acho que você não deve estar recebendo meu e-mail, que deve estar indo para o spam. Você viu lá?
Deixa eu dar uma olhada.
Tá. Dá uma olhadinha lá.
Tô abrindo aqui, só um segundo.
Se não, eu dou uma olhada na lista. Às vezes pode ter dado algum problema com a plataforma.
É que, na realidade, eu acho que não fui eu quem você entrou em contato primeiro pela BRA.
Ah, então deve ser. Então outra pessoa
eu acho que eu não tô na lista. Não tá no spam aqui, não. Deixa eu ver. Não tá.
Ô, Rodrigo, eu estou com o mesmo problema na minha empresa. Possivelmente está chegando para outra pessoa e não para mim.
Vocês conseguem me mandar uma mensagem só para eu pegar o e-mail de vocês daí?
Claro que sim.
Um e-mailzinho dizendo, Rodrigo, esse aqui.
Eu preciso te mandar e-mail aqui pelo... Eu te mando e-mail ou tá bom?
Ou me manda por aqui ou me manda uma mensagem depois por e-mail, que os dois servem. Eu já coloco vocês na lista.
Tá feito.
Eu só acho que vocês vão receber a partir de hoje daí. Vocês não recebem retroativo. Vocês vão receber uns e-mails de aceite, né? Tipo, obrigado por aplicar para o programa, que é automático. Aí depois obrigado porque, né, você foi aceito, então ignorem. Mas os passados não. Então eu vou ver se consigo encaminhar para vocês dois e isso aí também.
Eu pedi um forte se você conseguisse dar, mas tá aí já meu e-mail. Obrigado, Rodrigo.
Obrigado.
Até amanhã, pessoal. Tchau.
Até amanhã, vamos nessa. Eu vi que o Ronaldo tá com a mão levantada aí. Fala, Ronaldo.
Rapidinho, porque assim, eu estou vendo uma oportunidade inesperada aqui, porque assim, estamos todos nós aqui nessa missão, acho que seria uma boa ideia depois a gente pensar em fazer um networking com todas as empresas que estão envolvidas nisso daí. Porque da mesma forma que tem oportunidade lá na Ucrânia, tem oportunidade todo mundo aqui. Eu acredito que todo mundo é fornecedor e cliente ao mesmo tempo. Então, acho que vale a pena a gente fazer aí, trocar umas figurinhas, porque pode rolar um rock and roll aí com todo mundo.
Com certeza. E sabe que é legal a tua colocação? Muitas das missões que a gente faz em pessoa, normalmente, né, que são mais próximas, a primeira coisa que eu falo é exatamente isso, né? A gente está vindo aqui para conhecer o novo ecossistema, mas dentro do grupo sempre tem gente que faz negócio, é impressionante. Então eu concordo contigo, uma coisa que eu vou ver como fazer, ainda não sei, mas a gente vai fazer, não se preocupe. Uma boa ideia. Nem que seja compartilhar, né? Eu acho que pelo menos isso é legal, compartilhar links, enfim. Eu acho que isso já é um bom começo.
Se precisar de fazer alguma coisa, precisa fazer um site, alguma coisa, a gente corre atrás e dá um jeito de fazer criar um ponto de encontro para todo mundo aí conversar, trocar ideia.
Claro, com certeza.
Se for o caso, a gente faz isso. Eu acho que eu não devo ser o único programador que deve estar aqui no grupo, a gente deve ter mais. Então, a gente junta todo mundo aí, faz um projeto a várias mãos e
já vai,
fazemos isso acontecer aí.
Aqui está falando, um programador, Ronaldo. Aí podemos nos falar depois.
Pois é. A gente pode aproveitar e usar o GitLab para brincar, já usar uma plataforma ucraniana.
Ucraniano, exatamente. Bem isso.
Legal.
Bom, Ronaldo, eu vi você que estava no Shark Tank, não foi?
Foi.
Eu lembro. Eu vi teu rosto, não esqueci. Eu vi o vídeo inteiro, cara, muito legal, inclusive, a participação bem bacana.
Rapaz, foi o negócio mais difícil que eu já fiz na vida.
Imagino. Nossa, mas você pareceu tranquilo, cara. Eu ia estar morrendo se fosse você.
Mas eu tava morrendo.
Vocês foram super bem, cara. Vocês foram super bem.
Pra você ter ideia, eu estava com um nível de adrenalina tão grande que eu só fui, depois que a gente saiu, porque a gravação foi feita em Alphaville. Aí viemos de Alphaville para Ribeirão Preto, eu vim dirigindo. Cara, eu só fui conseguir dormir no dia seguinte, de tarde. Eu não conseguia apagar, cara. O negócio foi assim...
Cara, mas eu imagino. Deve ser bizarro. Imagina com
um negócio muito doido, cara.
E valeu a pena. Desculpa, calma, peraí. Deixa eu parar de... Agora que eu vi que eu tô recording ainda, senão